Welcome into Tips for Gamers, and today we are going to be giving our rating predictions on what we believe the ratings will be for the rookie quarterbacks in Madden 23. This is very tough to guess their ratings because Madden is so inconsistent. And if you guys want to help out our channel, liking the video really goes a long way, so I can't tell you enough on how much it actually helps us, and commenting down below also helps in a huge way as well. And, you know, hit that subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you a thing. Madden is consistent on one topic with ratings, and that is that rookies tend to have lower ratings compared to their peers, which makes sense. It is very difficult to guess how good a player will be outside of college because there's so many elements to what makes a player good in the NFL. Talent alone does no justice. We have seen so many talented players go in the NFL to eventually never be heard from again. And this was one of the weakest quarterback draft classes in a long time. Of course, some of these guys can pan out, but as a viewer sitting from the outside watching in, so what do we know? There was no clear top quarterback in the draft. In prior years, there was an easy top quarterback in the draft: Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, and many others. And almost anybody could see this, even some dude sitting on his couch eating potato chips. The QB position has now become overvalued. And it was finally nice to see teams not draft QBs high just because they are quarterbacks. Instead, they chose players that appeared to be more of a surefire deal in other positions that are likely to succeed. Now, Kenny Pickett is the first guy we're going to be talking about because he was the first quarterback taken out of the draft and the only quarterback to go in the first round. And make sure to check out our brand new Minecraft resource pack called T4G's Builder Pack. It is the most realistic Minecraft resource pack for Java Edition. We have stucco, great wood, amazing doors that will only get better, and bricks that will shock you. If you or anyone you know plays Minecraft, make sure to share our pack with them or check it out yourself. It can be found in the links in the description below. You can find out how to download it on our Patreon, and you can also see the video in the links in the description below as well. He went to the Steelers, which seemed to be more of a desperate move than anything, if I'm being honest with myself. Kenny Pickett was not a clear favorite quarterback of the draft, at least not to everyone else other than the Steelers. In prior years, there's always been a clear top quarterback in the draft, and we just didn't see that with Pickett. We're not saying he cannot be a starting quarterback in the NFL because you just never know. However, we never saw him as someone who was a bad quarterback, just more of a quarterback that was a late second, possibly even a mid-second to a late round material. With Kenny Pickett getting drafted in the first round, there will likely be an emphasis on EA to increase his rating higher than what they would have. EA tends to adjust their ratings depending on when teams draft these players. With all Pickett's talents considered, we believe that he will be in the range from a 72 to a 76. If it was up to us, we would have ranked him a 72, but it wouldn't shock us if EA put him as high as a 76 just due to when he was drafted. He will likely have a star dev as well. I can't really see him being a 77. I mean, would it really shock us if they tried to put him as that? No, but it just doesn't feel right. 76 is about the highest that we would think Madden would go, and definitely the highest that we would go. Next up, we got Desmond Ridder, who ended up going to the playoffs and getting smacked around, but hey, you made it to the playoffs, son. Desmond Ridder was the second quarterback taken in the draft. He ended up sliding to the third round. We never felt like Ridder was a surefire deal as an NFL quarterback. However, we cannot ignore the fact his talents need to be considered. Poor accuracy was one of the biggest issues that we had with Ridder. The same poor accuracy in college tends to be 10 times worse in the NFL. Ridder was one of the quarterbacks that we felt unsure about. He's a QB that we just want to see what happens. It would not shock us if he became a starter in the NFL and even a good QB at that. It also wouldn't shock us if he became a second stringer for most of his career. He is not the type of quarterback that has clear abilities in one way or the other. He is the type that is balanced. Yes, he had a good 40 time at 4.49, which is only a tenth of a second slower than his challenger, Marcus Mariota. The only difference is that Marcus Mariota has incredible football speed and just did more damage when running the ball. With that being said, Desmond Ridder just piqued our interest, and we cannot wait to see what he turns into. We believe that he will be as low as a 67 and as high as a 71, just depending on what side of the bed Madden wakes up on that day. We could also see Ridder with a star dev. Next up is one of the most intriguing players of the draft, Malik Willis. He was drafted by the Tennessee Titans, which is probably the best situation for almost all of these quarterbacks to land in. All we heard about was his amazing speed and arm strength. However, there is no official 40 time that we could find, as he chose not to do the 40 in the combine. This seemed to us to be a tactic. If he was 4.3 type fast, then why wouldn't he run the 40 just to show the world how fast he was? It would have surely launched his name in every news media outlet in the country. The same could be said if he ended up being slower than most expected. It would have harmed his value. His speed was truly hard for us to gauge due to him competing against non-Power 5 conferences. The players in his conference are good, but without a doubt, they're slower on average compared to the bigger conferences. We are by no means saying he is slow. We're just saying that we have nothing to truly measure his speed against. When it comes to his arm, we believe that he has a cannon, and that is less opinion-based when watching his film. We predict that he'll likely be the best sleeper quarterback in Madden just by how EA will rate him. They love to go off hype as well. He will likely have a high speed rating, 95 plus throw power with a poor accuracy rating, and poor awareness rating. This will undoubtedly make him a great user quarterback and likely put him close to Ridder's rating. We see him in the 66 as a low to as a high, a 70 overall range, just depending on who starts clicking buttons at EA. They do love going off the hype, and this kid had tons of hype coming into the NFL draft. We could see him with a normal dev trait, or this may sound crazy, but even as far as him going to a superstar dev trait, just because you really don't know what Madden does when it comes to hype. Next up, we got Matt Corral. Matt Corral was drafted by the Carolina Panthers in the 3rd round. He has great potential. He makes the host of solid NFL throws that show off his accuracy. Deep routes, slants, you name it, he can do it. He was one of our top-rated quarterbacks coming out of the draft or coming into the draft, and even with him being one of the top-rated quarterbacks of this draft, we still do not feel extremely comfortable with his abilities. He has high upside, but you just never know how things will turn out. We believe he'll be around a 66 to a 69 at the highest and will likely have a normal depth trait. Anytime the Patriots draft a quarterback, it's more intriguing than any other team drafting a quarterback. And they drafted this guy, Bailey Zappi. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. It's hilarious that the Patriots drafted him. When we looked over him, we were very impressed, and we believe he has a high upside. He's very intriguing, kind of like Malik Willis. Not as intriguing as Malik Willis, because Malik Willis just has, he has an upside to where if he can hone some certain things down, he'd be pretty insane. However, Bailey Zappi, he makes great throws, is slightly mobile, and we mean slightly. Has strong accuracy in his throws. It is hard to compare him because he really wasn't playing all that great of teams, but what we saw, it left us a good impression. We would not be shocked if he ended up as a starter in the NFL, but we would also not be shocked if he ended up in a backup role supporting Mac Jones for the years to come. In either scenario, if he's somewhat decent, we see him likely getting traded for a decently massive profit for the Patriots due to the Patriots effect. We could see him being a 64 to a 67 overall. And the next up on the list is Sam Howell. We're not going to go over the other guys drafted later on because it's just, it's too much work for those guys, and they just didn't get drafted high enough. We see Sam Howell being in the 63 to a 66 overall range.
High ambitions in the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes.